Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to make some apricot and almond tarts. So I decided to make these because it says that they're like mess-free eating. So with the holidays coming up, in case you need a little appetizer or dessert that's kind of not got chocolate, not got buttercream, so it's not as messy, this might be the recipe for you. So first off, we're going to make a pastry. So this has got a pastry and a little tart, a frangipane, an almond frangipane, which I have never made a frangipane before. I actually didn't even know what it was until last night. And then it's topped with apricots. So we are going to make the pastry first. So I've got 250 grams of plain flour in my bowl already. And I am just going to add a pinch of salt. Those of you who've been on my channel before know that I have a little measuring spoon for pinch that I just think is cute. Okay. And then we need to add 150 grams of unsalted butter, cubed and chilled, that I'm going to add into my flour. Okay. Now it says using a round bladed knife, which I have options here. What I really wish is I had one of those straight knives from that they have in Alaska. I forget the name of them, but they're very common up there. I have one of these. I've used this before, and it doesn't necessarily love to work all the time, but I'm just going to do it. This is what it's for, but sometimes it just gets all stuck in the blade. Okay, it just says to do it until the butter is half its original size, which is kind of funny because if you'd initially cut them cubed small, like small cubes, then you wouldn't need this step anyway. So whatever. My technicalities in these. This worked a lot better than I thought it was going to be. Maybe last time I just didn't have my butter cold enough. But there's like a one-bladed knife. Someone from Alaska tell me what that's called. I know I could Google it, but you know. All right. Now what we're going to do is use my fingertips to rub the butter into the flour until the mixture resembles fine breadcrumbs. Fine breadcrumbs. Here's where you can start playing the little fiddle for me because my hands kind of hurt. I've been at this for about 5 minutes, so it's starting to get fine. Some of the pieces are still a little big, but the overall average is fine breadcrumbs. Okay, so now we are going to add icing sugar. So I have 50 grams of icing sugar, which I just think is interesting that we're putting icing sugar in instead of like caster sugar. And then 35 grams of ground almonds. And then stir and mix until combined. I'm just going to use my hand. I've already touched it all anyway. Now we are going to make a well in the center. Okay, got a well. And add the egg. So I have 1 beaten egg. And 1.5 tablespoons of milk. So I have 1.5 tablespoons of milk. It says to have 2 ready just in case if I need that extra half tablespoon. So I'm going to bring together to a smooth dough, adding the remaining milk if I need it. Okay, now it does say to turn it out onto the work surface. Not really sure why I couldn't just knead it in my bowl, but you know. Knead slightly and knead very lightly and briefly and flatten into a disc. Okay. Now, very lightly, very briefly, flatten into a disc. Not sure why it can't be a square, but whatever. All right. I've already got some plastic wrap ready. I'm going to get this covered up, and I am going to cover and chill for 1 hour until firm. So I've got my disc going into the fridge for 1 hour. Okay, it has been an hour. So I'm going to roll out our pastry dough. It says to roll it out on a lightly floured work surface. So I've got mine already lightly floured. And we are going to roll it until it is 2 millimeters thick, I think. Yes, 2 millimeters, which is quite thin. And this is quite firm, so it'll take me just a minute. I don't dare go any thinner than that. It looks like it's about 2 millimeters, at least in the places I can tell. Anyway, so we've got a 9 centimeter cutter, round cutter, and I am just going to cut as many as I can. We're supposed to get 18 of these today. So, and then I'm just going to rework this just like you would, cookies. And what I'm going to do, let's see, cut out 18 discs. Okay, so that's a lot thicker than 2 millimeters. But again, I don't want to get it too thin and then they don't come up, Can I show you? That's about right. It's a little bit more close to 3, but okay. So 2 millimeters thick, get the round cutter, cut it 18 disc, re-rolling as necessary, and then carefully and neatly press 1 pastry disc into each muffin cup. So then I'm just going to be taking my muffin tin, and I guess I'm just going to carefully place it in there. This will be the interesting part. Okay. Like that. So that is my task at hand. Now, interestingly enough, it did not say anything about spraying this, so there they are. Some of them do appear to be quite a bit thicker than 2 millimeters. And the last one I formed to make a circle, so it's going to look a little weird, but it's okay. So now I'm going to, I need to spoon half a teaspoon of jam into each of these. So we're using apricot jam to go with our apricots. So half a teaspoon of jam into each pastry case. It's about half a teaspoon, right? Okay, so now I'm going to chill these. So some of them have probably a little bit more than half a teaspoon, but I'm going to put these in my fridge. Sorry, not my freezer. While I am working on the frangipane. Okay, so I'm all set up to do the frangipane, the filling part of our pastry tarts. So what it does tell me to do is to go ahead and get my oven heating to 170 degrees Celsius or 340 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay. So now we can make the filling. We're going to beat some butter and some sugar. So I have 150 grams of softened unsalted butter. And sugar is caster sugar, so the ultra-fine or superfine sugar that you can find in the States. It is 150 grams of that as well. So I'm going to beat this for 3 to 5 minutes or until pale and creamy. Okay, looking pale and creamy. So we are there. I didn't really even have to scrape it down. It just kind of did it itself, which is nice. Now I'm going to be adding the eggs. So we have 2 whole eggs and 1 egg yolk. They're all lightly beaten in my little container here. I'm just going to add a little at a time, beating well between each addition. So I'm just going to add a little bit there and beat. Okay, we're going to add our ground almonds. So we have some almonds in our frangipane as well. So So I have 100 grams of ground almonds, flour. We have 50 grams of plain flour, all-purpose flour, half a teaspoon of baking powder, and salt. Another pinch of our salt just to balance out the flavor, you know? So we need 1 teaspoon of finely grated lemon zest. So I have already grated that, and so I'm just going to add, it's most of a lemon. I have maybe half. And milk. We have 1 tablespoon of milk. Okay. And then I'm going to beat this for 1 minute until smooth and thoroughly combined. Just thoroughly combined. I don't know if smooth is the word I would use. Okay, so now I need to spoon the frangipane or the filling onto my pastry cases that I just got out of the fridge. The funny thing is it doesn't really say how much. I mean, I'm just going to try to evenly divide it. And you do want to like cover up the jam, it says. So I'm just not very good at evenly dividing things. Like, I'd be better off if you told me 1 tablespoon or 2 tablespoons. But am I supposed to just fill the cases? Okay, so I've got those all filled. It worked out pretty well. I had to go back and add a little bit, and then trying to flatten them with the spoon is a little challenging, but that's what it does say, to try to flatten them. Not that it's extra sticky or anything, but it's just, I don't know. So we are not quite done. What we need to do now is cut. So we have 4 apricots that you're supposed to have for this recipe, and then cut the halves into 8 slices. So like 16 slices and 1 apricot. I don't know if I've ever seen an actual apricot in a grocery store around here. Maybe I just haven't paid attention. So I went a little bit of the cheating way and went with a canned apricot because that's all I could find. I looked in a couple different grocery stores, and apricots are either not in season here or they just never are here. So whatever, it's fine. I know that they're good apricots. So I'm going to arrange these 4 slices on top of each and then scatter with some flaked almonds. So let's try to make these look pretty, which is never an easy part. And I don't know if I got all of my halves into 4 slices necessarily. So if I have a couple that only have 3, it won't be surprising. Okay, and now scattering with flaked almonds. We have 25 grams of flaked almonds. So I'm just going to try to evenly scatter those. Yeah, so there was no spray or anything on these muffin pans. I am hoping that there's something magical in the pastry that makes them not stick. It makes me a little concerned. I'm not going to lie. But it didn't say. So if they stick all to pieces, then we'll know why. Those look nice. Just have some little crummy ones. And now these are going to go into the oven at, what did I say, 340 Fahrenheit for 25 minutes until the pastry is crisp and the filling is risen and golden brown. All right, I think my almond tarts are done. All right, so they baked for 35 minutes or maybe even longer. The frangipane part just was not getting brown, so I wasn't positive that they were done, and I honestly am still not there. But it's been in there for 35 minutes, 10 minutes longer than it should have been. They're just not golden browning. I mean, they look good. These ones are, I don't know if you can see that. These ones are finally starting to golden. But anyway, I'm going to leave them on in the pans for 4 minutes, which seems oddly specific, and then I can transfer them into or onto a cooling rack. And then you're supposed to serve them at room temperature. So this is going to be a little bit of time before they finally cool all the way down. Okay, my almond and apricot tarts are cool. They look pretty good. Okay, they have a nice color on them, like the brown or the bottom is brown, not soggy. They turned out really good, so I'm gonna give one a taste. I'm gonna cut it in half first, so just see what we got going on the inside. Oh, so you can see the little layers of the jam with the frangipane and the pastry. The whole looks good to me. Anyway, let's give it a taste. I really like that. I'm not a huge apricot, like apricot jam and stuff isn't totally my jam. But the almonds I think do a nice job of like balancing it. But yeah. I think that if I'd have baked it less, because it said 25 minutes and I baked it for 35 minutes, I think if I'd have baked it less, it wouldn't have been done. So something, either my oven was not hot enough or maybe I was just, I don't know, whatever. These seem good. I wouldn't have baked it any less anyway. But that was my latest bake, the almond and apricot tart or apricot and almond tart, whichever way, from my Great British Baking Show Love to Bake cookbook. If you made it this far and you liked this bake, please give it a thumbs up. Please consider subscribing to my channel so you can see when the next bake is and what it's going to be. But otherwise, I hope you will go check out some of my other videos, and I will see you next bake.